in the United States, we've been seeing radical left politicians like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the Democrat, responding to these race riots by calling for police to be defunded. The Minneapolis City Council, where George Floyd was actually killed, says is now going to scrap the whole police force. But the president of that council suggested it was racist to then ask who would do the policing. Have a watch.
Do you understand that the word dismantle or police free also makes some people nervous? For instance, what if in the middle of the night my home is broken into? Who do I call?
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working.
So it's just from white privilege. But Corrine, one of the officials of the movement for Black Lives, which is part of that Black Lives Matter movement, said the answer to replacing police is to get more healthcare workers, rapid response social workers, conflict interrupters, community organisers, and then something undefined called an emergency response team. What do you think that would do to tackle, say, gun crime in the city?
I think it's absolutely terrifying. This, again, is what happens when people sit around and come up with theories that are completely detached from real life. These people have got no life experience whatsoever. They've got no experience of poverty. They don't understand the cycle of violence. They've spent far too much time sitting and talking about theories. You can't run law and order by a Kumbaya collective. It's absolutely terrifying. And the more that we're seeing this creep into mainstream media, normalising this whole notion, I think it's really time for people to wake up, sit up, stand up, speak up. It's enough is enough now. This is absolutely crazy.
Bruce, I've only worked on 2 Labor campaigns, and then in a very, very minor role, not like you, the guru of some winning ones. One of the big battles,
is that an apology, Andrew?
No, I just loved that whole thing, but the campaigning. But one of the battles, it seems to me, and I've seen people like my friend Gary Gray having to do this, it's a battle between idealists like that, totally impractical, and trying to knock it into a shape that would work in the real world. And I'm sure you've been part of those battles. How did this actually get out of the cage and become mainstream in that whole Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, I think it was an opportunity when people say things which are usually reserved for, the back rooms of pubs and and student households on mainstream television or radio, and suddenly get seized on. Look, none of that is, I think, particularly realistic, and certainly I wouldn't want to.
But journalists are treating it such as, Bruce. They're actually treating this as realistic.
Well, frankly, they shouldn't, because it just doesn't pass the most basic test of, what do you do when you need a police officer to come in and respond to a serious crime? What I think some people who are serious criminologists and sociologists are trying to look at is what are areas where you don't really need police action, because you don't need to necessarily criminalise certain activities. For example, I've been working in governments in New South Wales where they decriminalised prostitution. They basically did away with the problem of creating crimes out of prostitution and prostitutes by decriminalising it, and therefore a much less need for police to be involved in those sorts of issues. I think they're the sorts of things. Now, you're also talking about people who are having to respond, these rapid response units. Well, I've worked in the Department of Community Services in New South Wales. The rapid response units are the social workers and the youth workers who go in and lift children from dysfunctional families in the middle of the night, usually with police in support. So you do need those people.
I agree, but as you just say, they're already there. They're already there. The issue is about the police. Corrine, the problem is you can't redefine so many crimes. I mean, the main crime that Aborigines are in jail for are crimes of violence. You don't want to start saying, oh, we'll decriminalise violence. But how do you think this whole debate, which has now got to this crazy level, is going to work for Donald Trump?
Oh, look, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But, can I just say on that point, this is all part of that green left creep. And it starts with things like police powers at music festivals. It's all of those conversations where the green left has just slid into the mainstream to normalise all of these issues, and it's really scary. Trump has an opportunity. I think people want a strong leader. They want law and order. They don't want the Kumbaya collectives. They don't want this kind of mob. The group think, the group hug. They don't want all that. People want law and order. They want strength. They want a strong leader. So hopefully there's an opportunity there when people engage their brains for him to really. He's good at stamping his authority in that way.
Well, we shall see. Bruce Hawker, I'd love to have time to come back on you on that one, but I'll have to reserve that for next time you're on. Bruce Hawker, Corrine Barraclough, thank you both so much for your time.